Hey, yo, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, I want to wish you and yours and everybody a happy holiday season. Thanksgiving this week, and one of my favorite weekends of the year for sure. College football galore, as well as horse racing. And Churchill Downs will have a full card on Thanksgiving. And so after your turkey and football, uh, tune in for the late pick five, and we're going to delve into it right now.
So this is Churchill Downs Thanksgiving late pick five, races 8 through 12, and that's on obviously on Thanksgiving. So after your turkey and a little bit of football, uh, this would be a good landing spot. It's an interesting sequence. The first leg is race 8. It's an optional claim at 150,000, running a mile for 3-year-olds and up. And Twilight Blue, excuse me, to me, is coming in third off the layoff and a couple of pretty good efforts around 2 turns. I think moving back to 1 turn should be just what the doctor ordered for this front runner. And he's going to get on the lead and try to steal it. He's got a good post position. Tactically, probably can get there a little quicker than some of the others. And I think Twilight Blue is one to consider. Not sure about the top end to get it done, but I think can factor in this race. I had to choose between Pro-Oxidant and Injunction, and I went with Pro-Oxidant, although I have to admit I'm really not psyched about it. Injunction, I'm just is a perennial disappointment to me, and wanted a better effort in the River City last time and didn't get it, so call it a personal bias, but I just don't think that horse is really firing very well right now. Pro-Oxidant had absolutely no excuses in the last race, and it's the kind of race that you watch and it really gives a negative impression of a horse. Had every chance, had a perfect trip, got right to the top of the turn, was making a move right in position, and then just crashed, flattened right out, and made no effort at all. And it just wasn't a very solid effort. However, this horse does have back class and has the kind of form that if he can rebound from that, would be very competitive here. So Pro-Oxidant we throw in the mix. Pioneer Medina's under Brad Cox now. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily a step up from Todd Pletcher, but it's a little different training style, I think. Brad Cox works his horses hard, and you see there's an awful lot of 5 furlong works for Pioneer Medina, so I think he's going to be rock fit for this race. Was getting good towards at the end of last year, about this time, and going into Pegasus World Cup Day, we were thinking that maybe he could make some noise. So I think the horse has some talent. He showed me some grit, which I really always love to see. So coming off the bench, I know he's going to be ready to run. And if he can build on what he was showing at the end of last year, probably he'll be coming off the pace, just off the front runners. I think Pioneer Medina, you maybe get at a price, and I think he's got a chance. Best actor was another Brad Cox, and he hadn't really done much wrong. It's just, I just wonder about his class level a little bit. I don't know. He's going to try to get the lead. I don't think he's going to get it coming from the 8-hole here. But if he can replicate what he did in the last race, he'll win this. He's been off for a little while. And I'm just not sure. Just a little bit of uncertainty I have about him, but he's certainly one you have to consider in this race. Obesos, I think, is going to have everything his way. It's a 1-turn mile. He's going to have pace to run to, and he's coming into this race in pretty good form. From the rail, sometimes that can be a bit of an issue from horses that coming off the pace, probably going to have to work out a trip. But I think he has the back class and the form, particularly at Churchill Downs, that I think he can factor in here. And he'd probably be my pick to win this. And I suppose you'd have to think about Best Actor or maybe even Pioneer Medina as well as the primary win candidates. But those are the 5 that I think are worth considering for this race. Leg 2 is the 9th race. It's an optional claimer at 80,000 for non-winners of 3 lifetime. Run at 6.5 furlongs for 3-year-olds and up, and it's a big field, so we certainly it's probably going to be pretty lively on the front end, would be my guess. Of the front runners, I mean, Strava is going to have quite a challenge from the outside getting up near the lead, and I don't really like the way he's headed. Was a pretty good horse earlier in his career, but he seems like he's going the wrong way at this point. Maybe his father time, I don't know. But between him and Awesome Aaron, I don't think there's much there. Invulnerable looks pretty logical, and at 6.5 furlongs, it's coming off a little bit of a layoff, but I think this one definitely with a coming off the bench is in good shape, and I like Invulnerable in this spot to wire the field. It's entirely possible. Cyclone Mischief, our old friend from the Derby Trail, haven't seen him in a while. The biggest advantage that he has here is he's getting Lasix, and if we go back and look at his form in January, when he got Lasix, I believe it was at Gulfstream Park, he ran a really solid race in his career high. So you'd have to believe that this would be a good venue for him. Dale Relmans is love speed, and I would fully expect Cyclone Mischief, now back at a sprint distance, which is probably better for him, will be right up on Invulnerable's throat latch, or perhaps even on the engine. But I think Cyclone Mischief, this is a good spot, and I think should be very competitive here, and you could even think about it as a win candidate. Encore, we're throwing in because of Phil Bauer. That's pretty much it. Rigney Racing, Phil Bauer, his barn is killing it right now. They're red hot. This horse just finds a way to finish third. This horse just finds a way to be under, so that's where we're going to put him. He's probably not a win candidate here, going to be under. Ducali is very interesting, being trained by Brad Cox. This one, he was coming off a real long layoff last time, and I think kicked the rust off. Looked like, but for the fact he'd been away for so long, was looking good in the stretch, and then just didn't have enough. And I'm pretty sure with a race under him, he's going to come back into form. So I think Ducali looks pretty good here. Mr. Bob is a horse who's improving late in the year, and I think that's the linchpin here. Some of these are, there's a lot of horses in here who just aren't in very good form or aren't getting better, and I think Mr. Bob is. Got him in the last race at 7-1, which I was awfully happy to get. And he just looks like a horse who's on the improve. Now, I don't know if he has the top end necessarily to deal with Invulnerable or Ducali on their best day. But, there are reasons to expect that maybe they won't be. I don't know. It's not cast in stone. So Mr. Bob, being on the improve, I think is a horse you want to consider within the mix here. And then finally, we'll throw the closer in here, W.W. Candy. A horse that old running a big effort like that, usually I don't want him the next start out. However, of the closers, he's probably the one most likely to have a decent race. And there could be some pace in this race. And so if there is, certainly a closer would be a good thought. I think W.W. Candy, if he runs like he did last time, he would definitely be a player in here. I just don't think he's likely to run that well, being at 7 years old. However, we can certainly throw him in the mix, probably more for under. So for this race, I like Invulnerable and Ducali, I think, are the top two, but don't overlook Cyclone Mischief. I think he might... this is one of those types of races where he could surprise for Dale Relmans. I could see that being very possible. Leg 3 of the Thanksgiving Late Pick 5 is the 10th race. It's the Cardinal Stakes. It's running 1.1 miles on the turf for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. And this one is, to me, the defining theme of this race is trying to pick out the horses that are going to move forward, who have the potential to move forward, because it seems like there's a lot of horses in this field are kind of in a holding pattern, and they don't appear to be progressing. So trying to find the ones that are ready to run a good race and take that move forward into being a turf stakes contender is what I think we need to look at. I'll just go through
Joyful Applause won the last two out of three, but the third one was when she stepped up in class, and now she's doing it again here. And she doesn't really appear to have progressed from the 3-year-old form. Uh, excuse me. I think Joyful Applause, while not listed as a true E, is likely to be the pace in this race. So anything's possible from that perspective, particularly when you consider that nobody really stands out in this field. But I just don't like the fact that this one that isn't progressing from the 3-year-old, just sort of stayed, uh, just stayed in the 3-year-old form. So Joyful Applause, I don't really like in this race. Star Fortress is coming over from Europe, and Cherie DeVoe doesn't get a lot of shippers coming from Europe, but she is 30% first time with the team, so that's definitely something to think about. The lone graded try in the Hoppings two back was a moderate effort. She's definitely raced against better, I'd say, but the results have been kind of mixed, so it's sort of hard to gauge what we've got coming over to the States. Certainly Cherie DeVoe, if anybody can get this horse running well and being competitive right away, she can. But the tab really doesn't scream. There's just not a lot to be excited about this horse, and I think for that reason, I want to take a wait and see approach. Could be totally wrong. This one could come right out of the gates. But if I'm going to consider Star Fortress, I definitely would need a price. Lovely Princess probably has been keeping better company than most of the horses in here, and that's certainly a plus. A return to the form that won her the Kirtana back in May would likely win this race. She had a solid effort in the Dowager, and I think that likely portends that she'll run a good race here, coming in second in the off the layoff for Kenny McPeak. He's a Kentucky trainer, likes to win at Churchill. So I think Lovely Princess is one that should definitely be considered. Walkathon is trained by Ian Wilkes, and his barn is absolutely dead right now. He is 0 for 30 at the moment. He did win Walkathon won the Regret Stakes last year before an extended layoff, and the last two show a move back to prior form. Seems to be getting back into the swing of things, and those last two works were just dynamite. You don't see bullets from Ian Wilkes horses too often, so I'd consider that to be a very good sign. I have to admit, it's still kind of lingering there that Ian's barn isn't doing very well right now. And, when that happens, I mean, horses who should win end up in third. And that's kind of where I am with Walkathon. I think you got to include, looks to be on the improve. And I think that's a really important factor in this race. But I'd be advised as far as using it as a win candidate. I don't think Take a Stand is good enough. Bottom line, probably the easiest toss of anybody in this group. Juncture, you can't really get excited about this one as a win candidate following 3 straight, just sort of so-so okay efforts. In the Rodeo Drive, Juncture just sort of ran around the track, in my opinion. You got great connections here. You got Juddmonte, Brad Cox, and interesting that Flavian Pratt chose Juncture over Saffron Moon, which has been his regular ride for the last couple. I thought that was a rather interesting factor. I think, but you just look at this horse, and since coming over from Europe, really just sort of hasn't lit the world on fire. Got a stakes win at Lone Star, but not a whole lot of quality there, to be honest, in comparison. So Juncture to me is more one you think about as under, and you'll see the asterisk there, and that's what that indicates to me, is that I just think this horse, given what I've seen, I'm not sure improvement is likely. So I think another so-so effort It's been getting a little better in each of the last three starts. I'll give her that, but I just doesn't look like a win candidate to me. I can't put it any other way. Saffron Moon, trained by Chad Brown. I mean, on the turf, what need more be said? This one seems to be getting steadily better. Just a little bit at a time, just making that, climbing the stairway. And the last was the highest class rating yet. Um, really hasn't been facing a whole lot, but it's Chad Brown. So I mean, off the layup, this one could come out and light the world on fire. It's entirely possible. Uh, and I think another step forward would likely win this race. It's just not. To me, there's still a little hint of an uncertainty, and that's basically the problem with all of these horses. I mean, if you got to pin me down, I like Lovely Princess. I think is one that just seems ready to run a good race, and of course, you'd have to think Saffron Moon based on the connections and Chad Brown off the layoff, but it's by no means a lock, and this one would be difficult to. This is definitely one I think you have to spread because. It's not really it's a grade 3 in name only in my opinion, so we'll just have to see what happens. Fourth leg is race 11, the Falls City Stakes. It's a grade 3 run at 1.125 for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares, and I think this is basically Zagera's race to lose. It's that simple. She's the best in this field. I think, since moving back to dirt, she's been an absolute monster, drawn off in the last two. And more importantly, I think she's going to get exactly the same type of scenario that's worked so well for her in the last couple. The pace should be moderate. We know Hidden Connection won't be in this one as she ran this last weekend. So it basically leaves Jag Warrior on the engine by herself, and I just don't think she's good enough in this field to have any chance of wiring it. But we'll likely try, and we'll set some soft fractions and try to do it from the front end. And if so, then that sets things up for Zagera. It's probably going to get a little challenge from She's Cold as Ice. Just to talk about her briefly, she's similar to her next door neighbor, Scratch Cat. They haven't fared well in stakes efforts, but are in good form now. And so this is not the greatest grade 3 field. So I think She's Cold as Ice. Cold as Ice will have a scenario that can keep her in the mix. She's been really popular in the claim box for a reason, but that's running at claiming races, and this is a stakes race. And that's really, I think, what the issue is with her. She needs another jump, and I think she can certainly finish in the money. Probably going to be, if the pace is slow as expected, she should be in the mix late. But I don't see her or anybody in this field beating Zagera. Bellamore is one that, this is a softer spot, and I think that definitely puts her in the mix. Had a good second here in the Fall City last year, and there's no reason to believe that she can't get another second, but it's second. She tends to disappoint a little bit at the higher graded stakes, but in this spot it's a little cozier, and I think she can certainly finish in the money with her running style going to be right up off the pace, and that should keep her in the mix late, but again, I don't think she's good enough to beat Zagera. And then finally from this race, Scratch Cat I will throw in here. I don't think the scenario is really going to be conducive to her having a really good chance at winning. She hasn't fared well in previous stakes efforts, but she is coming to the race in good form. Like I said, just like She's Cold as Ice, and the barn is really hot. She beat a couple from here, 2 back, but I'm just not sure there's going to be pace to run to as there were last time with Jag Warrior and Punch Bowl dueling all the way down the backstretch. The track is favoring late runners, it seems, lately. So that will definitely help. And I think Scratch Cat is a player here, but I think under is more likely. And I just think this is, it should be fairly clear that this is Zagara's race to lose. And I see no reason why she won't run a big race. And I think she's the primary and only win candidate, in my opinion, and will be singled. Last leg of the Pick Five is the 12th race, and it's a maiden special weight for 120,000, run at 5.5 furlongs for 2-year-old fillies. And we've got a big field, and anything goes in these maidens, and it really makes for a pretty interesting Pick Five ticket when you've got to you got a spread here. The one in here that to me was the standout is Mischievous Mind. If you go back and watch that race, really didn't break very well at all, but once she got it into gear, she just closed like a freight train, just kept on coming, and she damn near won the race. So this is one with a second start. It should definitely improve. The Phipps, generally, the ones they keep are the fillies, and they've got that outstanding band of fillies and mares. And so you'd have to believe that they, especially after watching that race, that this one's got a future. So I think Mischievous Mind will have to break better for sure, particularly with only 5.5 furlongs to work with. But I think makes a lot of sense in this spot. Legadema is, Phil Bauer isn't known necessarily for firsters, but his barn's just going too well right now to be denied. I did not like the work tab. There are gaps in it, and you never like to see that, particularly with first-time starters. But like I say, his barn's just going too well. You can't leave that one out. Outspoken is owned by Rapoli Stables, but not trained by Todd Fletcher, trained by Mike McCarthy. And this one's been running out west. The last race was a 1 mile effort and at Los Al, and it looked one of those races that because she was pretty keen early. It looks like the cut back to 5.5 furlongs makes a lot of sense. Mike McCarthy, pretty underrated trainer, likely going to get a price with this one. So Outspoken is one to think about. I'll expect we'll probably try to rate a little bit more than getting to the lead. Tale of LeBee ran a very nice maiden debut. And if she wasn't parked in the 11 hole, I think would be a very strong candidate to win this race. But obviously being marooned out there, it's going to be awful difficult to get on the engine. But I think showed enough talent that you definitely have to use. And if they can work out a trip, should factor in the race. Parade Down Broad is trained by Brendan Walsh, and you get Tyler Gaffleone. As we know, all year they've been a killer combination. Brendan Walsh is not known necessarily for firsters, but the tab looks pretty good, and the dam is the dam of a couple of stakes winners. They were minor stakes, not major, so we can't. It's not necessarily a great play pedigree-wise, but I'm going to give it to Brendan Walsh that this one will probably be competitive. Plain Champagne didn't really do a whole lot in the last race and hasn't factored. Ran a pretty good debut for Tom Amos, and then the second start just really never got involved. But there's been a layoff, and I think there's time for retooling. And Tom Amos is a good trainer with 2-year-olds. He knows what to do. So I'll expect Plain Champagne to run a better race. But in my view, I think Mischievous Mind is the one to beat here. So here's what the ticket looks like for the late pick 5 on Thanksgiving. We're going to spread it because a lot of these races require it. This is a bigger ticket than I would normally put out, but I think it's justified in that we've got some value to be had if in a couple of these races. So in leg 1, we're going to use 1, 2, 6, and 8. In leg 2, race 9, we're going to use 2, 4, 5, and 7. In leg 3, race 10, we're going to use 3, 4, and 7, and that's a tough one. You can get through the Cardinal, we got a chance. In the Fall City, we're going to single Zagara. I think it's her race to lose, and I can't see betting against her. Not in the form she's in so far, and especially in the field she's facing. And then leg 5 at the race 12, the maiden, we're going to definitely got to spread in this race. I think Mischievous Mind is the one to beat, but we're going to use 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11. So that's a $120 ticket at a 50-cent base. But I think there's some prices, particularly in the first couple of races, are possible and could justify the added cost.
So that's the late pick 5, and it's an intriguing sequence. There's some really interesting races. I think we're definitely going to get some prices, and that would really spice up the ticket and make for a nice early Christmas present, wouldn't it? So I hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy, and we'll wish you the best of luck as always. And if you do like content like this, of course, please like and subscribe. And thanks so much for coming by. We appreciate it. That's it from here. Going to have a lot this week with a lot of racing for a holiday weekend, so stay tuned for more content. Talk to you soon, and until then, be well.